Why, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today's episode brought to you by one of my favorite sponsors, sunsetlakesebede.com. Yes, if you use the code LEFTISBEST, you will get 20% off all of their amazing Sebede products. They have tinctures in four different strengths. They have it in 3 different flavors. They have it with melatonin, help you go to sleep. Otherwise, you use it just to help you relax a little bit. I put a couple of drops in my hair. I've read good things about that. That's an off-label use, but I mean, also they have salves. They have salves with arnica and lidocaine. And speaking of off-label uses, and with Sebede, I use it for my eczema. I get a lot of problems, folks. I'm not going to lie. But I use all of these products. I use their smokables. They have smokables. They have keef. You can use it. They have pre-rolls. You can use it in conjunction with other things to get what a so-called entourage effect. Or you can just have a Sebede maybe after a big meal on a weekend or something like that. That's what I tend to do. And they have Sebede fudge. They have Sebede coffee, which is my weekend brew. They're an excellent company, both in terms of business practices, $20 minimum wage, mostly employee owned, and their farming practices are awesome. They use integrated pest management. That means no pesticides in your Sebede. They also use regenerative farming practices, which means they take care of the land. They do that in conjunction with the University of Vermont, I think it is, right? They're up near Burlington. They're Bernie Bros. And they're also of movement partners. They have contributed thousands of dollars to things like strike funds, refugee resettlement, carceral reform, Give Directly, food pantries. I mean, tens of thousands of dollars. And they also, obviously, Left is Best is their coupon code, 20% off. Check them out. A great company, great product. sunsetlakesebede.com. And now, time for the show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Friday, September 29, 2023. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Ryan Grimm, Washington Bureau Chief of the Intercept, and co-host on, what's that called? Counterpoints. I don't know, I forgot that. Also on the program today, Dianne Feinstein dies at age 90. Question now becomes, will Democrats pressure Republicans enough to have Republicans allow for a replacement on the Judiciary Committee? UAW, they will broaden their strike again today, barring any new movement on talks. California raises its minimum wage for fast food workers to $20 an hour. Kevin McCarthy flails and Republicans fiddle as we careen to a government shutdown. This is going to have real impact on real people, folks. Core inflation now at 2.16% for the past 3 months. That's within the Fed's target. Republicans' first impeachment hearings tank as their star witness says there's no evidence. Senate Democrats start talking about expelling Robert Menendez, and Tesla sued by the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission for severe racial harassment. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. It is Casual Friday. I'm not even wearing a collar. That's how casual. Yeah. Today was first of all, we should say Emma's out today.
Wearing a wetsuit.
I've never seen it rain this hard in the morning. I don't know why I mean it that way, but I never seen it rain this hard in the morning in New York City. And by the time I got to the first subway stop, flooded. Second one, I have video of water literally pouring out of the walls. But that one was still above water, the subway. And then in our office building, the water was, the flooding was so extensive that it came down the elevator shafts, and we had a 12-story walk up.
Nothing like getting your socks all wet from a walk through the rain in the morning and then walking up 12 flights of stairs.
It was literally like I had weights on my ankles. It was crazy. We're going to get to all of this news in just a moment, but we should first check in on the efforts of the Republicans to impeach Joe Biden. Didn't go so well. Here was their first House Oversight Committee hearing. What happened yesterday. Here's Representative Ken Buck on Anderson Cooper talking about that hearing.
And did you hear anything today that changed your mind?
No, I did not hear anything today. I did not sit through those hearings. I had other hearings to attend, but I certainly read the summaries of the testimony. I think Professor Turley is someone who carries great credibility in the House and in the Judiciary Committee. And when he says there's not enough evidence to warrant an impeachment, I think it's pretty clear that the evidence, while the investigation is ongoing, just isn't there at this point in time.
A Republican aide described today's impeachment hearing to CNN as an unmitigated disaster. Did Chairman Comer's witnesses undermine his own narrative, trying to link President Biden financially to his son?
Yeah, and here's the real problem, as I see it, Anderson. Once you start using the word impeachment, you've set expectations with a large percentage of the American public, and those expectations aren't being met at this point. It would have been much wiser to have continued the investigations, and if you get information that links President Biden with Hunter Biden's activities, then you start talking about impeachment. They came out of the box way too early. I don't know if it was intended as a distraction for the upcoming shutdown or certainly continuing resolution that we have to pass, or whether it was just a bad play, but it is not a good idea to have these two things coming together at the same time, in my opinion.
Is
unmitigated disaster. And to be clear, Jonathan Turley was a witness for the Republicans who apparently they didn't ask beforehand, do you think that there's any evidence that would warrant an impeachment? What did come out, however, was not only that Jonathan Turley is a bit of a nutcase, apparently he was actively defending polygamy, not just as an attorney, but like as a talking head, we should be clear. And he said he has a bit of a libertarian streak. And, like I'm not, I don't want to kink shame anybody, in terms of polygamy. But the problem with polygamy is that it is invariably a way of oppressing women. I mean, that's just what it is. But nevertheless, let's not just listen to Ken Buck, who clearly didn't want to have that impeachment thing. Let's listen to Fox's Neil Cavuto, who wanted that impeachment thing.
All right. For the better part of 6 hours, I had been following these hearings, save an hour off to do my Fox Business show earlier today. I don't know what was achieved over these last 6+ hours. Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto. I want to put in perspective here, though, and we are going to legally go through all the details, but James Comer, the Oversight Committee chairman, had said that there would be presented a mountain of evidence against Mr. Biden. It was referring to President Biden. But none of the expert witnesses today presented yet any proof for impeachment. Now, to be clear, this was not about
pause it. Not. I want to make something also even more clear. Not proof for impeachment, evidence. Proof is a higher standard than evidence. Proof is the aggregate of all your evidence. What was not even offered today, or yesterday, I should say, was evidence. Proof is when the cup runneth over. What they had was a completely empty cup. Not half full, not quarter full, not 3/4 full. Empty cup.
Got some notions.
Mountains of evidence. Mountain may not mean what Comer thinks it means, but continue.
But none of the expert witnesses today presented yet any proof for impeachment. Now, to be clear, this was not about impeachment. This was about launching an impeachment inquiry. But it is worth pointing out that none of the witnesses today were fact witnesses. That means that none were involved in the investigation into the alleged activities in the first place. What's more, none of the witnesses testified today of direct knowledge of what Republicans have been claiming about Joe Biden. In other words, that the way this was built up, where there's smoke, there would be fire. Again, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm going to be talking to some darn smart ones in a moment. But where there's smoke today, we just got a lot more smoke. We also say that the best they could say now, after this 6+ hours of testimony back and forth, is that they're going to try to get more bank records from Joe Biden and his son. Says that they're needed to determine if a crime was committed. Understood. But none of that was presented today, just that they would need those records to further this investigation today, even though this occurs after months of Republican probes that failed to provide anything resembling concrete evidence. We do.
All right. I mean, he's being generous there. Not only was there no fire, there was actually significantly less smoke than there had been before.
They need to check their smoke detectors.
It was like, don't open the windows because all the smoke is blowing out. Fascinating. Oh, and the backdrop to this, the point of this is the government is going to shut down in a matter of days. And the Republicans don't care, I guess. I don't know. We'll talk to Ryan Grimm about that in just a moment. First, a word from our sponsor today. It is getting around that time. Holiday season. Maybe you have a little business. Maybe you're like my daughter who keeps selling all of her clothes and having to mail them out. Well, holiday rush means more mailing, more shipping for your business. But here's the good news. It doesn't mean you have to have more stress. Stamps.com has been helping businesses like yours save time and money for 25 years. And it can get you ready right now for the holiday ramp up. All you need is
It's like
stamps.
older than Google.
They've been around forever.
Jeez.
I can't even imagine what they were doing in the late 90s with this. But now it's amazing. I'm not saying it wasn't amazing then, but it's incredibly convenient now. Stamp.com's premium rates for your postage needs is all you really need. It is a personal post office. All you need is a computer and a printer. They'll even send you a free scale, so you'll have everything you need to get started. What you do with Stamps.com, and we should also say they now have a mobile app, so you can do it just as you're, walking to the subway. If you need package pickup, you can schedule it through Stamps.com in their dashboard. If you sell products online, Stamps.com seamlessly connects with every major marketplace and shopping cart. And Stamps.com also has premium discounts and supplies at your fingertips. So if you're running low on your envelopes or mailing supplies, labels, printers, you can go for the supply store. You can also get huge carrier discounts, 84% off U.S. Postal Service and UPS rates to help your bottom line. And of course, Stamps.com automatically tells you your cheapest and fastest shipping options. For 25 years, Stamps.com has been indispensable to over 1 million businesses Like I say, you can get access to the USPS and UPS services you need from your computer 24/7. 24/7. I've talked about my experience with shipping out DVDs back in the days when we were giving out DVDs for membership. I can't believe it. In 10 years, like those things have gone away. But stamps.com, and really to a certain extent, Mila, were my partners there. Like she would put it in the envelope and then I would take the labels, post it on there. Stamps.com would give us all the postage, and UPS come pick it up. Boom, we're done. Really super easy to use and incredibly helpful. And here's the thing. There are no long-term commitments or contracts. So if you sign up with the promo code Majority Report, you will get a special offer, which includes a 4-week trial, plus free postage, and a free digital scale. Like I said, no long-term commitments or contracts. Just go to stamps.com, click on the microphone at the top of the page, enter the code Majority Report. All right, quick break. Ryan Grimm, more talk. We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report. We have interrupted Ryan Grimm's lunch. He is the
It's just sesame sticks.
Washington Bureau Chief, and also the co-host of Counterpoints and a gourmand. Ryan Grimm, welcome back to the program.
Always a pleasure.
Dianne Feinstein passed away today. I don't. Maybe it was a surprise. She voted. She actually cast a vote yesterday, and then missed like 2 other votes after that. Condolences to her family, et cetera, et cetera. But let's talk about what's genuinely important in terms of like the rest of the country, which is what's going to happen now in terms of the judiciary, because we were told that if she resigned, there was no way to fill her spot on the judiciary because ostensibly Republicans were going to block her replacement. What happens now?
That's not exactly. There are a lot of kind of liberals that are kind of speaking this drama unnecessarily into existence. If she resigned from the Judiciary Committee but remained a senator, Republicans were going to play hardball and not allow a new senator from elsewhere in the caucus to be put on to the committee. That's what they were threatening. She died or left the Senate, and a new senator replaced her. McConnell and has been very clear that he would allow that. Like he's not kind of remaking Senate rules around death and resignation from the Senate. It was around the peculiar instance of Democrats insisting that somebody who was mentally gone maintain their Senate seat, but also be replaced on the Judiciary Committee. That's where Republicans were saying no. You
Is
can't
it- are
have
you-
this act both ways.
Are you 100% sure about this?
I'm
Because-
never 100% sure about anything. That is
right. Are you like in the 90s on this?
I'm in the
Because
90s,
we were
yeah.
told over and over again, for those of us who were like really pushing for her to resign her seat, not on the Judiciary Committee. The whole point was like something like this could happen. And
Right.
now the Senate is the Democrats no longer have or they I guess I mean they don't have a majority Democratic caucus anymore. I mean Kristen Sinema is an independent, and this is a problem. Like this is there's going to be downtime, however you slice it, on the Judiciary Committee, and that is a bad thing because we don't know if Joe Biden or a Democrat is going to get elected in 2024, and we need more federal judges to be filled. And the whole point was resign now so that the process can be controlled in some measure, where your resignation could be timed with Gavin Newsom appointing somebody and get that going very quickly. And now we're screwed.
What you were being told and what everybody else was being told who was making that point, you were getting told that by defenders of Feinstein who did not want her to resign. And so they were kind of giving you a worst case scenario. Look, there's no point in having her resign because Mitch McConnell can just be evil, and not allow a new senator to be appointed to the Judiciary Committee. But McConnell has never said that in the event of a death that he would stop somebody from getting onto the Judiciary Committee. And if he broke that norm, then it becomes untenable for Dick Durbin to maintain the norms around blue slips and majority support for a candidate on the Judiciary Committee. So McConnell has not only not said he would do that, he doesn't quite have the cards to play because Democrats have cards they can play to trump it.
To Trump,
right? Durbin could say, "Well, then we're not. Then screw all the norms on the committee. Like if you're going to break 200 plus years of precedent around the death of a senator, then we're not doing blue slips anymore. And we'll just vote people through. We can just extract people from the committee, even if they don't get full support."
If I was Mitch McConnell, I wouldn't be terribly afraid of Dick Durbin doing that.
I mean, there's that.
Because let's be clear, we should say the existence of blue slips seems to only happen when Democrats control that committee.
Yeah, that's why they're called blue slips now. It's only Democrats.
I mean, and just to remind people what these are, blue slips, every time a federal judge is appointed or nominated from a specific state, the two senators from that state give their approval by putting in blue slips. And if they withhold those blue slips, the tradition had been that these nominees will not go forward and they'll find somebody else to nominate. And Republicans stopped recognizing that tradition. And then Democrats, in response, re-recognized that tradition as punishment for, I guess, themselves. I mean,
yes.
That was with Leahy, and Durbin has continued that up. It's absurd. It's utterly absurd. And if I was Mitch McConnell, I would be like, I don't know. But
maybe he will. I don't think so.
Yeah, I doubt it. But the point is that we were lied to about her resignation stuff, and that is people need to keep that in mind. Nancy Pelosi did the same thing with impeachment. I think she said at one point that if he was impeached, that there wouldn't be criminal proceedings that could go forward. If I remember correctly, she had said that on late night television. So people should be aware that that's what happens there. You know what's interesting about that, though, to me, is that increasingly, and I think this is happening, in terms of the strikes, because we can talk about a little bit about, Joe Biden going to visit the UAW strike. But and I don't know if it's just a generational thing or what, but they don't understand whether these are strike, like I feel like we saw this with the studios on the writer's strike. I feel like we see it with the UAW strike. and I feel like we see it with like what Pelosi did, is that they don't understand that social media now, one of the functions that it serves is to push back on stuff that is small like that, and change the understanding of at least the most engaged people, which sometimes are the most problematic for stuff like that.
Right. Yes.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
do you have that sense?
Yes. Yeah. And that's why people say, when people say Twitter is not real life, they don't understand that so much of our understanding of how things are unfolding develops there. And then among the most hardcore people, like people watching this show, for instance, if you're watching this show, you care, you care a lot about politics. You probably in your friend group and in your family, somebody that people come to and ask questions. Is the government really going to shut down? And so what social media conveys to those people who are then getting asked in their social circles questions really matters. What we say here on this show matters because we're the source of information for people that are then going to convey it onwards. And it's obviously going to be a game of telephone all the way. So by the time it gets down to the people that are paying the least attention, it's wildly distorted. So the closer you can be to accurate at the top, the better, because it's going to get lost, in translation anyway.
Let's talk about. I mean, there were two, I think, sort of major aspects of Joe Biden going to the UAW picket line. One was that it's just pretty historic. We've never seen a president do that. And it has real, I think, meaning. I mean, I just thought, like, the idea of having Sean Fain having 3 or 4 minutes of unencumbered coverage of his speech on cable news. Like, when was the last time that ever happened?
Never.
If ever. Right. Yeah. And I mean, it was a big deal. And then the amazing thing, too, was the dogged insistence by the political reporters at major publications, the Times, the Post, the AP, Reuters, that Donald Trump was going to visit union workers and, basically doing the same thing. And he was doing almost the opposite.
Right. It feels like partly the union movement is so small at this point that the idea of a union worker has been drained of this actual meaning, which is somebody who's a part of a union that is fighting for benefits for themselves and their community. And it just means like a person with a lunch pail that shows up to a diner. Like, whether or not they're in a union is kind of beside the point of whether or not they get coded to East Coast or West Coast reporters as like union members. So the fact that he's going to visit people who might have a hard hat somewhere in their vicinity, they're like, oh, that they're probably in a union, that counts. When it's actually, no, like lots of them are not in unions. That's the whole point. That's what happened the last
something like 93%
years.
Of workers are not in unions, right?
Yes, they're not. Yeah, and a significant portion of people with hard hats and lunch pails are not in unions and are making 50%. Look at wages at Tesla compared to Ford, and that's before the strike.
And this is just like political reporters having no clue, isn't it? I mean, this is like they're not labor reporters. I mean, this is one of the things. Like, I had a conversation with someone who is a producer on a national outlet, just in a social setting, and they were lamenting like there's not going to be any primaries really this year because there's no real primary race. We're going to talk about the debate this week. But they're like, it's almost like a foregone conclusion who's going to be, and they're like, we don't know how to report on this. I'm like, well, I mean, we have really big labor stories going on. Like, the FTC just announced that they're going to go after Amazon. There's a court case against Google. Like, these are major, aside from like the government shutdown, which is also covered like ridiculously. These are major stories, and I don't think I've had a more disinterested look that I have faced when I was talking than since, like, basically, telling my 18-year-old daughter, like, dude, you got to do a little more reading, and like, oh, whatever, Dad. I mean, it was honestly, yeah. It was as if you started to like tell somebody about a dream you had the night before. But the most banal,
Yes.
boring dream in the world.
It was
And
Ralph Nader, but it wasn't.
I forgot about like just how much the people who write about politics, for the most part in this country, don't really care about like what politics are. It's literally like my relationship to sports. Are the Patriots or Red Sox in the playoffs? Okay, I'm going to engage.
Yes.
The
Right.
Celtics in the playoffs, I'm going to engage. But otherwise, it's like, oh, okay.
Yes, and I think 70 years ago, when these issues were bigger, mainstream reporters had their skills at covering them as kind of the horse race style, because that's what they need. They need to be able to have villains. They need to have good guys. They need to have who's winning and who's losing, because like getting into the substance of anything is just difficult for the mainstream press. They just want to report like it's sports. Back in the 50s and 40s, 50s, 60s, you could talk about labor fights in that way because everybody was most people knew someone in a union or were in a union. When it came to antitrust, you've got the bells and like these, you had like real live fights that people were engaged in. And I think we've kind of lost that muscle memory, but maybe we can get it back with enough fights. Because like, you're right, like, there's no primaries. I guess there's nothing to cover. It's like, except like the class war between labor and capital that is like bursting onto the scene in a way that it hasn't in almost anybody's living memory.
Right.
Or like you said, the Department of Justice and the FTC taking on maybe the two most powerful or two of the top 5 most powerful companies in world history, like direct shots at them. Like these could be exciting stories.
There's certainly going to be ones that touch, an enormous amount of people's lives. And it is, I don't know. I hope that changes, but I just had this, like, I had forgotten about that. Like I had forgotten about it because, I've been living in this sort of like mainstream news, bubble of sorts. And,
Right.
I remembered like back, in the aughts when I would go in and fill in for, on MSNBC and remember like thinking like, oh my God, how am I telling these producers about Social Security? How do they not know this?
Yes. It's
Like
amazing.
these are left leaning producers and they don't know. And,
Right.
You walk into CNN's green room and it's like to have even like a remote conversation with a producer there about anything that beyond like that surface thing. And it was just, they look at you like you were a lunatic.
Like, are you here to sabotage our show? Like,
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that was what their concern was. Like, I hope you're not going to say this on air. What? But let's talk about that. The UAW. I mean, what do you think the implications are? I mean, for Biden making that trip. I mean, obviously it helps the UAW, but like, is there going to be anything more than this? Like, is this going to, I don't know, impact his reelection in some fashion? It certainly felt like Sean Fain was very appreciative and like went after Trump and made it clear, like, we're paying attention to who's our allies.
yeah. And I think from a horse race perspective, what it does is it really forces Trump to defend his claim that he is the champion of the working class. And I think in 2016, because Hillary Clinton was considered to be the Clintonian, free trade supporting, kind of neoliberal giving speeches at Goldman Sachs candidate, and because of that, it allowed Trump to just say, I'm the tribune of the working class. And as absurd as that was, the Democrats weren't really putting something up to kind of contrast with him, so he could just skate on that. Now, the press did botch it badly on he's going to this, he's going to head out to speak to this, union workers out in Michigan. But you also saw real efforts by the press to kind of correct themselves when they realized that was wrong. And I think a lot of that did penetrate the public consciousness that like, oh, Trump is not actually supporting union workers out here. What he's saying is we shouldn't have electric vehicles, and he wants the UAW to endorse him so he can be president, but he doesn't actually support the current demands of the UAW. And so once once his very thin kind of support for the working class is pushed on just a little bit, it falls apart. And so I think by Democrats and by Biden, like doing something demonstrative like that to say, look, I'm actually here, I'm supporting them, and here's how I'm supporting them, it really puts the test to Trump. And it's a test that he can't really pass because all he has is culture stuff.
That's a great point. I remember, I think it was at Youngkin's. I think it was the Youngkin race, and who did he run against? Was it
McAuliffe?
No. Was it McAuliffe?
Yeah, it was McAuliffe. Yeah,
McAuliffe. And the problem that McAuliffe had in going after Youngkin was like a hedge fund guy.
Right.
But the problem that McAuliffe had, like, and people were like, it was like at Bain, I think he was, and if I remember this correctly, it's something to that effect. But McAuliffe couldn't go after him because he'd also worked at Bain Capital. Yeah. And so that line of attack was taken off the table. Whereas, Biden's going to have the opportunity, assuming he's the nominee, to use that against Trump. Let's talk about the shutdown, because that's, and I want to encourage people, if you're a federal employee, send us an email and just give us a description of what you're going through, because I've talked to a couple of people, just random people I've known who work for the federal government in one form or another. And for a lot of these people, it's a disaster. It's a disaster. Like, people are worried about losing their homes type of thing because they don't know how long this is going to last. And then right now they're having to sort of like prioritize, like, we're going to, are we going to pay the electric bill? Are we going to pay the car payments? What are we going to do? Because nobody gives them, there's no furloughing of their responsibilities to pay for it. And it's like, these people aren't making necessarily huge amounts of money. This is a real disaster that, of course, none of that part gets communicated in the news.
Right. Although people in Virginia very much understand it because, there's so many federal workers that live in Virginia. I think it was Dave Weigel or somebody else was pointing out that when Ted Cruz did this back in 2013, and by the way, Chip Roy was Ted Cruz's chief of staff during that 2013 disastrous shutdown for Republicans. If you remember, it really helped Democrats in Virginia in particular, because those, like you said, those people are really, really getting screwed. Because you said the mortgage is still due, the rent is still due, all the bills are coming in. You have to figure out what bills you're not going to pay. There's now a law in place that says they will get back pay, so eventually they'll get paid. But that doesn't help right now if you're already kind of maxed out. It's,
what do? You take
which is like most
a personal
people.
Loan at 15% or whatever it is. You're not going to get that money back. You're not going to get that interest back.
No. It's a complete mess. And the same thing happens for the federal government. It ends up costing tens of billions of dollars, even for just a couple weeks shutdown, because you spend all of this money shutting everything down, and then you blow all these different opportunities. You've got bids that are out. The government's doing things. It all has to shut down, and then starting it up again costs tens of billions of dollars, all for nothing. And so, and I would suspect that it's going to help Democrats in Virginia. Interestingly, that helps Trump. Trump is nervous about this little Youngkin boomlet. He's the guy that the donor class really wants to run against Trump. And if he doesn't kind of take back the Virginia Senate, Virginia House, then that really undermines the argument that he's making. He's like, I'm a guy that won in a swing state, and now I took back, the state Senate and the state House. That makes him look really good to Republican voters. But if the shutdown undermines that, it only helps Trump. Trump also helped, of course, by the federal courts getting thrown into chaos. So, there's like one person in the country who benefits in multiple ways from this shutdown, and it's Trump.
Yeah, that's not surprising. And there are upcoming elections in November in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
The Senate, I think, is going to have elections, and I don't know. Is it all 40 elections? Do they have it for all of their state representatives?
Is the entire Senate up? I don't think so. Oh yes, all the state reps, yes, are up.
So that's going to be a big difference. It's going to make a big deal there. And I guess maybe on some level, to the extent that this Youngkin boomlet was happening, I want to get to that in a moment. But do you have a sense of like what's going on? So the Senate passed a continuing resolution that would have taken us 6 weeks out to ostensibly rerun this entire drama again, I
Right
guess.
before
But
Thanksgiving,
this
yeah.
time we mean it. And it was basically dead on arrival, it seems like, in the House. I read, I guess a week or two ago, that the idea was that there's an FAA authorization that has to happen like October 1st, that the House would pass that, send that to the Senate. The Senate would then attach their continuing resolution for the 6 weeks, send it back to the House, and hope that they would have to pass it because it's sort of like a must-pass bill. All these people have friends who fly all the time, business people. Is that still in the works?
Well, yeah. So the current CR that the Senate passed included an FAA reauthorization up through, I think, December 1st, like further than the rest of the CR. So yes, they are lumping those things together. And if you remember, you remember when the last time Trump shut the government down back in 2018, 2019, if I remember correctly, it was when Sarah Nelson and the rest of the flight attendant union said, you know what, we're striking over this. This is absurd. And it took them,
Right.
I think, 24 hours.
Right.
And they were like, okay, never mind, we're back.
Right. It was shut down for like 5 days, I think. And by Friday, I think they had announced on Thursday, like, we're about to walk off because it's no longer safe for us.
Right. And this was after like a 6-week shutdown. But
Was it a 6-week shutdown that we had?
It was a long
Wow.
shutdown, but then the airline union came in at the very end and said, all right, we're not doing this anymore. And then it only took them a couple days of striking or making threats to strike even,
Yep.
because that slowed things down. Once the airport, once the airports stop working, and they're not working now. So imagine like what it would look like with extra chaos thrown in. Then the business class is on the phone with every Republican. And they're like, enough of this. I got a flight.
What's the House going to do about this FAA reauthorization?
I think nothing. I think they're just going to like walk into the buzzsaw like they do every time. And then I think they'll get chopped to pieces and then probably end up working with Democrats to reopen the government and punt it to like Thanksgiving or whatever.
And then we're just going to replay this whole thing again.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe with a bigger fight over Ukraine next time.
And maybe you do the authorization right before Thanksgiving so that if the government shuts down, the Republicans are responsible for everybody's Thanksgiving plans to be crashed.
Yes. And I feel like Democrats should like involve the airline union and involve the FAA in these all the time, because that really would say, okay, like it seems like there's nothing else that Republicans care about more than the airports running. Like that is the Achilles heel of our kind of upper middle class. And so you disrupt that, the pressure is just too great. And my God, right around Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that would be insane. So right now, are we looking at a government shutdown in the next, over this weekend?
Yeah, midnight on Saturday. Yeah, I don't see any way it doesn't happen.
And then it's just a question of what gets them back to, and I wonder. I mean, Sarah Nelson must have been, contemplating this. She must remember last time, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And maybe they do it sooner this time.
They might. It was because I remember it being just amazing how quickly the entire structure folded in the face of Sarah Nelson.
Really nuts. I mean, I'm getting IMs now from people who are like, I'm a manager in Wisconsin state government. Many of my employees' salaries are paid in full or in part with federal funds. If the shutdown lasts more than a month, many state employees across the county will also be looking at furloughs. Somebody else says, I'm not a federal employee, but we're using a federal mediator for contract negotiations. The government shuts down, we won't have federal mediation, and the hospital will say we won't have wage increases. I mean, this is going to have really just an amazing set of cascading implications. All right, let's just, I know you got just a couple of minutes left here, but inflation, another big story that we're now within that 2% zone, at least for core inflation. People are talking about, gas prices are going up, but that's not a function of like inflation as we consider inflation. It is a function of Saudi Arabia deciding they want Donald Trump to be president and squeezing their production. I mean, there's no cure for that other than, other than, let's say, nationalizing our refineries, I guess, and saying, we're not participating in the global oil market in some fashion. But let's just talk about this thing with the debate. Apparently the ratings were abysmal. Nobody cares. I watched the thing, and I have to say, like, I could not. It really seemed like the third tier when they, during 2016 when they had like 3 separate debates, and if they did it the first time by like ratings, and by the time you got down to the second debate, it was like people who you never even heard of them before.
Yes.
And it felt like we were watching that. Like the stakes were like nothing. Like, I don't think any of them would be the nominee if Donald Trump died tomorrow. Like they're right. I mean, they're not even, I don't even know what they're doing. They're not even keeping any seats warm. I don't think they would sell any books. Like they're like not even involved in the grift. It's so ineffective what they're doing.
When you watch these, you often picture like the person who's talking as president. Like that's their goal, is to like make you see them as president. And you're right. I don't think there was a single one of them during the whole 2 hours where they were talking where I imagined them as a president, like good or bad. It just didn't scan. Like, okay, like these people are on stage and talking about things, but the idea that it's a debate for the presidency just seems like a fantasy. Like you said, it's unlikely it's even a debate for the vice presidency.
I thought Kristi Noem was the biggest winner. She didn't, she's not even in the race, and she just had her ad up there.
Yes. No. Yeah. Exactly. And I had to watch it too, and I almost turned it off in the last 10 minutes because I'm like, all right, this is good enough. I don't need to see the final statements. But I left it on, and then I got to see the curtain exchange, which just summed up the Republican Party so thoroughly. This 2 South Carolina politicians arguing about hanging Obama's drapes in the UN residency, screaming at each other. Like,
it was nuts.
What is this?
It was really one of the most petty things I've ever seen. Like, it just diminished all of them. It all felt like all of the clothes they were wearing like grew 3 sizes over the course of those 2 hours. It was amazing, I thought. I mean, really. And, I just saw this, there's a piece here in the Times, a group tied to Club for Growth, the committee, the PAC called Win It Back. They've spent $6 million on testing 40 ads to see what would shake Republicans loose from Donald Trump. And they've had to go back to their donors and go, none of it's working. None of it's working.
And some of it they found was making him more popular.
Yes.
Yes.
They don't it is amazing the grip he has over that. Someone said, well, Joe Biden. Well, Joe Biden's the sitting president. He's the incumbent. If Donald Trump was the incumbent, I would get it on some level. But also, Democrats would be, at least expressing that they would be happy to replace Joe Biden with someone else. It's unclear who that person would be, but there's no cult of personality around Joe Biden. It really is amazing. I don't know what's going to happen with this election, but if Donald Trump loses, it's unclear to me, what fills that vacuum.
Well, he does. He just fills it until he dies.
That's what I'm saying. If he doesn't win, and he, maybe he continues to fill it for another.
Runs again. Yeah, he'll run again and again and again.
2032 when he gets out of prison.
Yes, it's wild, and it's such a break from history because in the past, if you're a one-term president and then you get rinsed in your reelection, you're lucky if you get invited to the convention to speak.
Right.
Like you're cast out of the party. Like you had one job to get reelected. You failed. Then you helped them lose the midterms 2 years later. You know, you lost 2 midterms in a row, you know, straddling your election loss. Like the idea that that candidate maintains a grip on the party is completely ahistorical. Never happened for, you know, in either party.
Jimmy Carter, for instance, ladies and gentlemen.
Storming back in 1984. Like, no
yeah,
way.
Exactly. Are you kidding? Like people, like, you know, the Democratic Party couldn't run fast enough away from Jimmy Carter.
George H.W. Bush making a comeback, 1996 or whatever. No,
we are in really unprecedented waters. It really is. It's amazing. Ryan, I know you got to run, but thanks so much for capping. This is a crazy week, and I think it's going to get
wild one.
Things are going to get more nuts next week. I think with this government shutdown, and you know, it's amazing they had that impeachment hearing yesterday, and it went the way that it went. I mean, it really is
their own guy throwing cold water on it.
It really is amazing, and I think I don't know. We'll talk about the Democrats' performance on that committee because I thought they actually did a quite good job. And what's also interesting is to watch the younger Democrats, how partisan they get, which, you know, regardless of their ideology, they get very partisan, which is at least, you know, that's what you're supposed to do in politics. Ryan Grimm, always a pleasure.
Likewise.
Thanks, man.
See you later.
All right, go get something to eat. We're going to go, maybe we'll go short today. And then go into the fun half and take some phone calls.
We didn't do any calls yesterday, so that might be
yeah, that's what I heard. But let's play a couple more clips of the impeachment hearing. Do we have any some? Do we have that one? Yeah, let's do that. And there was a couple of good. We don't have any of those of the Democratic performances. Kazar, who'd you do? Oh, you did do Kazar yesterday. Yeah, he was impressive. You know, the Crockett, is that her name? Yeah. She was impressive. Like, you know, like again, this is completely divorced from ideology. There are really two things that you look for from what I look for from Democratic Congress people, or, you know, for that matter, independent, non-aligned Congress people. One is I want them to be as far left as they can be in the context of our Congress. The other thing, though, which is a completely distinct from ideology, is the idea that they have political opponents who they must make pay a price for every mistake in every position that they hold that is vulnerable to being exploited by you as a Democratic or an independent congressperson. And the Democratic Party is led by a cohort of a specific generation, I would argue, who entered politics at a time where there was a lot more sort of like fear of drawing a distinction, a lot more fear of breaking norms, a lot more fear of coming off as a partisan fighter. And so you have things like Joe Biden, you know, still feeling we need to show bipartisanship. That's why I'm convinced Build Back Better failed in the way that it did. I mean, we ended up getting the IRA, I get it, which definitely did some good things. But after the American Rescue Act passed in early 2021, Joe Biden had the opportunity to basically floor it, put the pedal to the metal, as it were, at a time where Joe Manchin was saying, like, maybe we need $6 trillion bill instead of a $4 trillion bill. before Joe Manchin could actually sort of put his finger in the air and hear from his paymasters, essentially, what they wanted. And before they could organize it, Joe Biden fiddled and diddled, invited Republicans into the White House, and invited Kristen Sinema to come into the White House with Portman and come up with all these different ideas that just act as a way of slowing things down and giving opponents a chance to line their ducks up. Do we have these clips?
I have a bunch of clips. It just depends on what you want.
Okay, let's play this AOC clip from the impeachment hearings. This is day one. And again, this is under the backdrop of their the two sort of like star witnesses that the Republicans had brought in for their impeachment hearing. And it's as if they had not like ever met these people before. Jonathan Turley was one. The other one, his name escapes me at the moment.
Bruce Dubinsky?
Yeah, Dubinsky. And both of them said, here's what Dubinsky said. Dubinsky said, more information needs to be gathered before I can make such an assessment about whether there should be an impeachment or not. And Turley said, I do not believe that the current evidence would support articles of impeachment. In other words, like, these are the star witnesses coming in and saying, like, you guys, cart, horse, this is a nothing burger. Here's AOC.
Called in 3 witnesses to advance their case. Mr. Turley, I have a simple question for you. In your testimony today, are you presenting any firsthand witness account of crimes committed by the President of the United States?
No, I'm not.
No, you are not. Ms. O'Connor, you are the second Republican witness here today. Have you, in your testimony, presented any firsthand witness account of crimes committed by the President of the United States?
I have not.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Dubinsky, as the third and final Republican witness in this hearing, have you, in your testimony, presented any firsthand witness account of crimes committed by the President of the United States?
I have not.
And Professor Gerhardt, given that you are the minority witness, I assume the same, correct?
I am not a fact witness, correct.
Thank you. And to clarify, 2 individuals presented today who do have firsthand accounts surrounding the progeny of these allegations are being blocked from testifying by the Republican majority. And I want to explain why this is important. Members of Congress, all of us in this hearing, are not under oath, as we are presently covered by the speech and debate clause. Isn't that correct, Professor Gerhardt?
That is correct.
And the speech and debate clause covers all statements by a member of Congress, whether they are factual or not. There are only 4 people in this room that are presently under oath in their testimony. And those are the 4 witnesses here today. Is that correct, Professor Gerhardt?
That is correct.
And so the direct testimony of the 4 individual witnesses here today are the bona fide words that this committee must use in order to proceed or substantiate an investigation. And I want to emphasize why that's important. Earlier today,
I mean, there you have it. I mean, it is, she's basically just saying they're just up here lying. And
The people that can't lie
and
can't say what they want
the people who can't lie are saying, like, what are we doing here? Here is Max Frost of Florida talking to these witnesses.
Inquiry is a grave undertaking that is supposed to be in response to evidence of a crime. Mr. Chairman, you have questions. Many of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle in this hearing have questions, but questions are not the basis for an impeachment. Evidence is. Mr. Turley, on September
Pause it for
1st,
1 second. I mean, just look at this. Here's a freshman congressperson. Keep that up. Keep that image up there. Keep the image up there. And he's taking his time. Like, I mean, this is someone who understands partisan politics. Is his first, he's been in the Congress for what? I don't know, 18 months or so, whatever it is, a year. maybe not even 10 months. And he understands like what the message is. The message is we're here doing BS, and right here on my iPad is exactly the only thing that's really relevant to anything that we should be doing here. And he's just reminding people to it. I mean, it's just like the savvy, regardless of what you think of its politics, one way or another. His politics are better, in my estimation, than most in Congress. But regardless of what you think of that, just in terms of like being effective in conveying a message, that's right there. Continue.
This for an impeachment evidence is. Mr. Turley, on September 1st, Speaker Kevin McCarthy said that he would not launch a fake impeachment inquiry, a sham impeachment inquiry. But then on September 12th, just 12 days later, he completely changed his mind. My question is why? In those 12 days, did hard evidence appear that clearly and directly links the President of the United States, Joe Biden, to a crime?
I can't answer as to what was it that pushed the speaker to make the decision. The courts have said you don't have to have that vote on the floor. I think it is a best practice. But
I'm very interested in those 12 days. And we know you're not a fact witness and you're talking about things that are already public. But is there anything that came up in those 12 days that linked the President of the United States to a crime? Yes or no?
I don't have any recollection of those 12 days.
Yeah, nothing. I can tell you it's nothing. And we've heard even from you that this is why we have this impeachment inquiry. But let's be clear, this inquiry has been going on since the day we got here. Since the day I was sworn in at 2 a.m. on a Saturday night, this impeachment inquiry started. Let's pull back the curtain on what's really going on. There's no evidence of crime, only desperation and political pressure. This is what's going on. The far right called for the sham impeachment hearing with no evidence at the beginning of this year when we first got started. This impeachment inquiry has been going on. This is not the first hearing we've had in relation to this. On September 1st, the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, says, no, we're not going to do that. We don't have the evidence. We don't have the votes for it to pass on the House floor. We're not going to do it. A good decision, in my opinion. But then just 12 days later, 12 precious days later, something happens. I'm not sure what, but something happens because then the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, comes out and says, yes, we will do an impeachment inquiry. So what happened between these 12 days? It's very simple. 3 threats from members of his own caucus at the direction of former President Donald Trump changed his mind. Number one, the threat to force a vote on impeachment, which would lose on the House floor and be another embarrassment in the long list of embarrassments this Congress for the Speaker of the House. Number two, they would threat to shut down the government, something that will happen in just 2 days. And number three, and this is the one that really got to him, they said, you about to lose your job. And they said, we will remove you as Speaker from the House. And that scared him so much that Kevin McCarthy, the Speaker of the House of the United States of Representatives, third in line of the presidency, completely caved due to the threats of people within his own caucus. This fake impeachment is based on desperate political calculation, not any evidence. And Mr. Chairman, you say this hearing is to
I mean, there you have it. And let's just do a final clip here. This is Jasmine Crockett from Texas. I'm not sure which district she's in.
I think Dallas area is my recollection.
She has an interesting description of. She's talking about Donald Trump. This is the one where she's talking about Donald Trump stuff hidden in his commode, I guess, but she has a different word for it.
Where he clearly states, quote, the brand was Washington, D.C., not President Biden. He was asked, the brand was really Joe Biden, and Mr. Archer responded, well, I guess it's a reminder.
So Chair recognizes Ms. Crockett from Texas. Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Before I begin my questioning, I want to remind everyone that the information recorded in the FBI Form 1023 that my Republican colleagues keep citing is not evidence of anything. This form reflects years-old, secondhand, unverified information from a Ukrainian oligarch as relayed to the FBI by a confidential human source. These unverified secondhand allegations have been repeatedly debunked and undermined, including by the confidential human source who relayed this information to the FBI. The tip recorded in the Form 1023 was thoroughly explored by the U.S. attorney handpicked by Donald Trump, which was Attorney General William Barr, and the assessment was closed. Finally, Devin Archer, Hunter Biden's former business partner who worked with the Ukrainian oligarch in question, told this committee in a transcribed interview in July that he had no knowledge of any such payments allegedly described in this form. Repeating the same lies will not somehow turn them into truths. Kind of like the election that Trump lost. Say it with me. He lost it. Repeating the same lie that he won wasn't going to turn the election around. The lost in this chamber keep pushing lies and lunacy on behalf of a multi-time loser. So if we're going to talk about China, let's go ahead and talk about China. And let's talk about the dealings. And let me point out the fact that right now, each of you has admitted that none of you are fact witnesses. We walked in without facts. And unfortunately, because what we say isn't necessarily evidence, we have wasted the American people's time, and we are going to walk out of this chamber and we still have no facts that are leading to anything. But let me give y'all a little bit of tea while we're here. So I have a document that I will ask for unanimous consent to enter into the record. It's a fact sheet on President Trump's shady business dealings with the Chinese government.
What are you entering in? A record from who?
This is from the Congressional Integrity.
Congressional Integrity Project, the dark money pack?
I object.
I object to that too.
Of course y'all gonna object, but we gonna talk about it. So it says Trump has extensive financial ties to the Chinese government. President Trump collected millions from Chinese government-owned entities while in office. I have the best tenants in the world, President Trump was well aware of the multi-million-dollar lease to Chinese interests. President Trump promised to donate foreign government profits while in office, but he donated less than a third of his proceeds from the Chinese government. President Trump maintained 3 foreign bank accounts while in office, including one in China. President Trump's business with China raised legal and ethical concerns. But when we start talking about things that look like evidence.
Let's go to that. Let's go to that short. She wrapped it up with images of Trump's storing documents in his bathroom. And here's that clip.
President of the United States has committed. But when we start talking about things that look like evidence, they want to act like they blind. They don't know what this is. These are our national secrets. Looks like in the shitter to me. This looks like more evidence of our national secrets, say on a stage at Mar-a-Lago. When we're talking about somebody that's committed high crimes, it's at least indictments. Let's say 32 counts related to unauthorized retention of national security secrets, 7 counts related to obstructing the investigation, 3 false statements, 1 count of conspiracy to defraud the United States, falsifying business records, conspiracy to defraud the United States, 2 counts related to efforts to obstruct the vote certification proceedings, 1 count of conspiracy to violate civil rights, 23 counts related to forgery or false document statements, 8 counts related to soliciting, and I could go on because he's got 91 counts pending right now. But I will tell you what the president has been guilty of. He has unfortunately been guilty of loving his child unconditionally, and that is the only evidence that they have brought forward. And honestly, I hope and pray that my parents love me half as much as he loves his child. Until they find some evidence, we need to get back to the people's work, which means keeping this government open so that people don't go hungry in the streets of the United States. And I will yield.
That was pretty good. You know what's also, what you can tell here is that this type of it's whataboutism, right?
Yeah, they need something because of all the stuff against Trump.
Well, no, but my point is it's whataboutism, obviously, from the Republicans. I mean, they're doing this because they want to distract. I mean, you cannot cleanse Donald Trump. And I think there was another guy who had like a scoreboard, and he said, like, 63 indictments, 2 impeachments, whatever it is. You can't put a 0 in Trump's column, so you try and add to Biden's column. And that's obvious. But the Democrats are getting away with their own whataboutism here, in the sense of like, Donald Trump did this, Donald Trump did that. And the reason why they're able to so easily do that is because they don't have to address anything that's been brought up about Biden, because they're at a hearing and there's no witnesses making any charges against Biden. Not only are there no witnesses making any charges, there's no witnesses providing any fact testimony. Not only are there no witnesses providing any fact testimony, the analysts that the Republicans brought in said, as far as we can tell, there's no evidence here. I mean, it really is astonishing.
Yeah.
And, the Democrats should have pushed, let's put this on primetime. These are impeachment hearings. This is important. Let's put this on primetime. It really is stunning.
I do appreciate this other moment from Maxwell Frost here, where he shows a bunch of disrespect to these witnesses, and they are scandalized by it, which, that's exactly what you love to see.
All right, let's see this.
We have one witness who has a lot of questions, Ms. O'Connor. Dubinsky, one witness who knows something about accounting but has no real involvement with what's going on. And Mr. Turley stopping here on his way to his next Fox News hit. This is not a serious inquiry. And we have one.
That's quite fun.
Just upset on behalf of Turley.
Yeah.
How dare you question
Jonathan
Turley's honor.
And that just goes more to my point of like, look, this is theater. Make no mistake about it. This is 100% theater. I mean, impeachment is a political process. And you need to be able to make a case so that the American public, sort of buys into this thing. Whether you're Democrats or Republicans. The same sort of pressure was on Democrats when they were impeaching Donald Trump. If they had done, impeachment really hurt the Republicans, or helped Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton got into office in 92 with 45% of the vote. Because of impeachment, he left with a 60% approval rating. And the younger Democrats understand what this game is. They don't have any compunction mocking the witnesses here. They remember what happened to witnesses against, in the Kavanaugh hearings. They remember, and they understand that every time they don't rise to that same level, they lose. Vermont Ben, has the meaning of impeachment been degraded? I don't think so, because they're not going to impeach Joe Biden. They're going to try, but I don't think they're going to, because this is what's really important here too, is understand like what this is at the end of the day all about. It's about 2 or 3 members of the New York caucus who are Republicans, who are going to have to go back to their constituents and just sort of justify this. And I don't know, 4 or 5 in California, and maybe a handful around the country. There may be 15 Republicans who are so-called like frontline.
Right, it's like some of the Orange County area ones, the New York State ones, and then like a few, like you said, like in Don Bacon in Nebraska, etc.
There's a couple who are going to have to justify this,
right.
And by making it about Republicans and making it about Kevin McCarthy and about they are setting up the challengers to these candidates to say, It doesn't matter what you say. The fact is, you have an R behind your name, and you support the Republican leadership, and this is what the Republican leadership is giving us. They shut down the government. God knows how long it's going to be. Immiserating hundreds of thousands, probably millions of people in one fashion or another, costing billions of dollars. And they're wasting this time with this garbage. And they got nothing. All right, we're going to take a quick break, head into the fun half. 646-257-3920. We got a lot of time. We'll take some phone calls. We'll play some clips. We'll read some IMs. Wrap up this insane week. Apparently, New York City is in a state of emergency right now because of flooding. I mean, it's just the water came down so fast. I mean,
the videos are crazy.
I'll show you this one from the one that I took today coming in. Here, I'm going to show this right now. It was nuts. Can we see this? Yeah, okay. Oh, wait, I don't think you can see.
You can kind of see some of the water spouting out.
It's literally spouting out of the wall on the subway.
It is spouting out of the wall.
all that flooding, too.
I don't think that's designed for that.
Yeah, walls aren't supposed to leak. I saw some like I don't know, control room doors where water was pouring out from like up top.
It's horrible. I feel bad for all the people that have ground or basement apartments because
it's dangerous.
Yeah.
People die in those.
I mean, I think fall it was. We had a similar situation.
Yep. All right. Just a reminder, it's your support that makes this show possible. When you become a member of the Majority Report at jointhemajorityreport.com, you not only get the free show, free of commercials, but you also get the fun half. And you also have the opportunity to IM the fun half on the app. The app is free. I just want to say, we started the show 10 minutes early today. I want to apologize. We got to get the app messages out. I think probably we got to send it out an hour because there's so many that it goes out and it doesn't go out quick enough. So some people get it 10 minutes after the show starts, but we tried to send it out at 11:30 today. Apologies if you joined us late. My fault. It's a function of our guest and also a function of I have to go a little bit early today. Bradley, what's happening on ESPN? I just want to remind people too, justcoffee.coop. Fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. Use the coupon code majority, get 10% off. Check it out. Honestly, great coffee, great company. The other movement partner, I would say. We have two of them, Sunset Lake Zebedee and Just Coffee. Their business is fantastic. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we on ESPN OT yesterday, we discussed a little bit of the Damian Lillard to the Bucks trade that Matt so accurately predicted many, many months before it actually happened. And then also offered our picks for Week 4 as against the spread going into Sunday's NFL action. So youtube.com/ESPN show if you'd like to catch up on that and check out some clips.
Matt.
Tuesday on Left Reckoning, go subscribe on YouTube. We talked with Jacob from the Valley Labor Report about the UAW stand-up strike. And this weekend, patreon.com/Left Reckoning, talking to the boys at the Vanguard about some of the third-party candidates, new entrant into the running on the Democratic side, and little Bobby Kennedy stuff. Not actually that much, more about Marianne and stuff like that. So patreon.com/Left Reckoning to hear that.
Ay. Not the candidate we needed. See you in the fun half.
You are in for it.
All right, folks. 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Are you ready?
Who sent us this?
Alpha males are back. Boy is back, and the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boy is back, and the alpha males are back.
Just want to degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Snowflake says what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman.
And the alpha males are back.
Oh no, Sam Seder! What a fucking nightmare!
Bring back DJ Dinner.
Yeah, or a couple of them, just put them in rotation.
DJ Dinner.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break.
That's fucking nonsense. You see white people doing drugs, they look worse than normal white people, and all white people look disgusting.
And the alpha males.
Psych. Fuck them. Snowflake says what? What?